After 10 years of cultivation without enlightenment, once enlightened, you reach the jade pool. Wow. That evocative poem by Shui Feng really sets the perfect tone for our explainer today, doesn't it? It hints at this lifelong, sometimes grueling search for understanding, a search that, literally in a single instant, can completely transform your reality. Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating framework of spiritual philosophy known as Lifechanyuan. We're going to explore exactly how it outlines a path of human elevation, and then, and this is the best part, discover the striking parallels it shares with ancient global wisdom. Think of it like climbing a massive metaphorical mountain, and together we're going to map out every single step of the ascent. Here's the quick roadmap for our climb today. We'll start with cultivation versus practice. Scale the 3 stages of cultivation, reach the peak of restoring original nature, look out at the echoes in ancient texts, and finally, we'll confront the ultimate unseen law. All right, let's start right at the very base of our mountain with Section 1, cultivation versus practice. It's really fascinating how this text draws such a hard line between 2 concepts we usually just use interchangeably. Cultivation in this framework is purely an intellectual journey. It's the recognition, the exploration, and the judgment needed to actually find the right path. Practice, on the other hand, well, that's the physical and emotional heavy lifting. It's the selection, the restraint, and the persistence required to actually walk that grueling trail. Basically, cultivation is finding the map, while practice is doing the hike. So, how does this map translate to the actual ascent? Well, that brings us right to Section 2, the 3 stages of cultivation. The journey of transcending time and space in Lifechanyuan is strictly divided into 3 distinct tiers. Step 1 is the elementary stage, which, surprisingly enough, focuses on very grounded, everyday things like health and wealth. Step 2 is intermediate, where we transition into calming the mind. And finally, the advanced stage. This is a purely ethereal state, literally walking with angels. Let's break these down a bit more, shall we? Zooming in on that elementary stage, the text makes a huge point of emphasizing that you have to start by seeing through the illusions of daily life. But here's the catch. You still have to fulfill your secular duties, right? Paying bills, staying healthy, achieving basic financial freedom. You've got to lay down this stable, stress-free foundation before you can even think about elevating your mind. Okay, so once that secular foundation is totally solid, you elevate to intermediate cultivation. And this stage is entirely about the heart and mind. The ultimate goal here is to completely end worldly worries. It's like dispelling a thick, heavy fog of the secular world to make your mind totally transparent, clean, and extraordinary. Which brings us to the absolute summit of our climb. Section 3, restoring your original nature. Once you hit the advanced stage, the focus shifts entirely to a very specific concept called nature. In the lore of Lifechanyuan, nature is the absolutely pure original blueprint of human genetics designed by the greatest creator. We're talking flawless, totally free of impurities, and theoretically capable of true immortality. But here is a super fascinating twist. The framework states that when angels, or celestials, actually built humans using that blueprint, their technology was, well, imperfect. They accidentally mixed impurities into human nature. So when you really look at it, advanced cultivation is basically just the process of removing those specific angelic errors to restore your perfect original blueprint. Wild, right? Now that we've reached the absolute peak of the Lifechanyuan framework, let's look out at the horizon. Section 4, Echoes in Ancient Texts. You see, Zhu Feng's framework doesn't exist in a vacuum. It intentionally points to ancient global wisdom. Just notice the shared universal themes: the age-old battle between the flesh and the spirit, the impermanence of the physical world, leaving phenomena behind, and the principle of action through non-action. Let's take a look at how different traditions perfectly echo the mountain we just climbed. First up, we look at the Bible. Romans chapter 8, verse 6 says, "The mind governed by the flesh is death, but the mind governed by the spirit is life and peace." This directly echoes that Lifechanyuan concept of transitioning from a chaotic, muddled physical life at the base of the mountain, right up toward a state of spiritual clarity, life, and profound peace at the intermediate stage. Next, the Quran beautifully illustrates the exact same impermanence of our reality. Surah 20 says, "You see the mountains and think them firmly fixed, but they shall pass away as the clouds pass away."
It's incredibly poetic, and it aligns perfectly with the elementary stage's mandate to discard worldly illusions and see the constant in the impermanent. What feels so solid in our secular lives is, ultimately, totally fleeting. And it's genuinely incredible to see how Eastern philosophies map so directly onto this framework, too. The Lifechanyuan goal of transcending the secular perfectly mirrors the Diamond Sutra's call to leave all phenomena. And that highly advanced goal of walking with angels, well, it flawlessly parallels the Tao Te Ching's ultimate mastery, which is to act without action.
To really underscore this, the text highlights a famous passage from the Diamond Sutra. All conditioned dharmas are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, shadows, like dewdrops and a lightning flash. It's a profound, almost stark warning. If you stay captivated by the bubbles and shadows of the secular world, you're never going to clear that fog from your mind.
And then, of course, there's the Tao Te Ching. The Tao is always non-active, yet there is nothing it does not do. This whole principle of formlessness captures Yufeng's advanced state to a T. Once you remove your inherent impurities, you essentially operate on a level of effortless, formless energy. Which brings us to the final section of our explainer. We're returning all these global perspectives back to Yufeng's dramatic conclusion. Section 5, the ultimate unseen law. Right at the very end of this framework, Xiu Feng describes the ultimate law of the universe, and he states that all non-active laws simply cannot be explained. They are invisible, untouchable, yet immensely powerful and completely unpredictable. He writes that this force comes like thunder and lightning, but leaves like a dream. It has no boundaries, no moves, and no postures. It simply is. And all of this builds to a pretty high-stakes ultimatum. According to the text, your relationship with this unseen law basically dictates your entire existence. If you comply with it by successfully climbing that mountain, everything goes smoothly, yielding peace for 10,000 years. But if you resist it, you face a life full of literal and metaphorical bumps, a disaster that even extends to your descendants. It's a very stark contrast. After mapping out this entire intellectual journey, the disciplined practice, and the rigorous climb to remove our inherent impurities, it all comes down to one single choice. So looking at this framework and all the ancient wisdom that supports it, we have to ask you, will you comply with the unexplainable law of the universe and find peace, or will you resist and face the bumps?